Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. Welcome back to another Monday Mastery. My apologies for missing you last week. It was a bit of a week. We'll get into that in a second, but I want to remind you this is a timeless message. I will take a minute or two to discuss the geomagnetics and the Schumann resonance, and then we will get into timeless guidance. As important now as ever, that is for sure. So just a recap on last week, I had some things personally come up and I didn't feel that my energy was receiving guidance properly enough to deliver the message for you. So I am very, very careful about what I share and what I spread. And if it is not motivational or healing or helpful, I'm going to have to refrain from sharing in that moment. And last week was one of those weeks. It has been challenging. And what was really surprising was the energy at the eclipse was actually pretty soft, softer than I anticipated. Previous new moon eclipses have been more rocky than this was. And so with it conjunct Chiron, that was a bit of a pleasant surprise. While it did feel calm and peaceful during the day of the eclipse, once the light of the moon returned, we had full-on eclipse energy. And then from there, we had Mercury passing through, reactivating. We had Venus passing through, reactivating that eclipse. We also had a sun square and a moon square. And so there was a lot of very difficult energy last week that was very reminiscent of that eclipse energy. So as I like to remind everyone, I am in this with you. And it was a challenging week for me as well, but we are back in full force. So how were the geomagnetics this past week? Not terrible, not super calm. We had 8 flares last Monday, which would speak to part of the challenge that I was experiencing. It was a very, very hard day for me last Monday. And then I did have some other things with the channel where I just couldn't post algorithm stuff that I won't go into now. We did have a KP4 on Monday, as well as Schumann resonance activity. We had a KP5 on Tuesday with an M flare. Wednesday, a couple of M flares, but that's when the energy started to lighten. I noticed Wednesday evening into Thursday, things were really starting to get better. And it's interesting too, because people talk so much about this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened the last 2 days. And well, they're so big, it's been happening for a while, but they keep hyping it up as this magic day of luck that's, instantly everything's going to change. And hey, guess what? Massive planets that move slowly actually have a very long-term impact. So while we did experience obviously some challenges due to that, the good luck and the magic doesn't necessarily happen the day of. We're talking about a 14-year cycle here. So maybe you got glimpses of how your life is going to change. I certainly did, but it was more around the eclipse than it was the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So just keep an eye on it. Things will continue to happen. Like I said, it's a long-term thing. Thursday was relatively calm. Friday was pretty active. We had 7 M class, I'm sorry, KP7 and M class flares that day. Saturday was very quiet. Yesterday was pretty quiet, just a 2 or 3 flares, M flares as well. Again, the dust is settling, things are feeling easier, even though we have a full moon tomorrow in Scorpio, no less, which can be a challenging sign. But I think it's all relative at this point, whereas what we experienced last week is not, it's making this full moon seem a little bit easier. So after this full moon, usually about 2 to 3 days after, we will start to see the decline of not only the full moon energy, but the eclipse season energy. This full moon is the close of that. So very, very good news. We are starting to get clarity on sort of the shakeup that happened and where we have been dumped out. We're starting to get guidance on how things are moving forward. It really, really, really feels like a massive shift happened during the eclipse. It's an internal shift for all of us. And yet that internal environment is what creates our external environment. And so we're starting to kind of get a sense of what's shifted and how will things be different. We're very much in a choice point. Was a new moon eclipse, which new moons obviously are excellent for planting seeds and setting intentions. And yet maybe because it is an eclipse, it's amplified. These choice points are more lingering. The door is still open to say, okay, I see how things have shifted within me and how I want them to shift externally in my life. So we're kind of getting a sense of where we're at now and how to move forward. The difficulty, hindsight's always 2020. The difficulty of last week, it very much was like contractions. And so this is sort of your timeless advice. When we are experiencing difficult emotions, energy in motion, remember that's the sensation in the body before the brain assigns a story to it, and then it becomes a feeling. We don't listen to feelings. We do honor and listen to and follow the guidance of emotion. So energy and motion in the body, difficult emotions, we want to make friends with them. We have, especially in the community of the spiritual world where we, toxic positivity or only high vibe or spiritual bypassing, we're foregoing the contractions that will birth a new life. Those difficult emotions, let them wash over you, be in them for the 90 seconds that a typical emotion will last. I don't want to say typical. It's known that emotions generally don't last much more than 90 seconds. So things can move a lot faster. Now, for those of us who have a lifetime of unhealed trauma, or we have struggled for a long time and we're just starting to wrap our head around this game called life and how to play it so that we can experience more positive than negative, you will have stacked, suppressed, old, unprocessed emotions that require our focus and attention for 90 seconds on top of 90 seconds on top of 90 seconds and so on and so forth. It's not that this feeling is going to last forever. It's not that you're going to drown or be overtaken by the difficult emotions. It's just that we have a lot of backup that we need to process. Now, if you are a woman and you have had a child, you've gone through natural child labor, you understand the analogy of contractions. For those of you who are men or you have not had children, think of kidney stones or something difficult to pass, and recognize historically in the past, when you have resisted that contraction or that the body trying to push something out, the resistance is what actually causes the pain and suffering. So perfect analogy is when I had my son, who is now 17, almost 18 years old. I was in the thick of my being asleep, right? I liken my awakening to the analogy of turning on a light bulb. I felt like I lived in a dark room and I had no conscious awareness of what was happening in my mind and body. And so if you go into labor, first of all, they broke my water and they induced, which meant contraction on top of contraction. There was no break in between like there's supposed to be. I struggled to get him out. They had to break his arm. He nearly died. It was a very serious situation. Compare that to my third child, where I did something called Hypnobabies, where I learned to meditate during labor and surrender into the feeling is like melting into the contraction. And what is very counterintuitive is the resistance actually makes the contraction worse. And the melting into the contraction actually almost alleviates and eliminates the pain. And there's sort of these stages where you're slightly dilated, 50% dilated, and then mostly dilated and moving into crowning. So in those first two stages, there was little to no pain at all, which is highly unusual for today's day and age. It was really only in the crowning moment that it was just too much to bear. And even then it was because I stopped surrendering to the contraction. So that's what we want to remember is weeks like this last week or these last couple of weeks, however long it's been extra difficult for you, these are the moments when we are experiencing the contractions that are necessary to birth us into a new life. Surrender, learn to surrender into, melt into the sensations in your body, the emotion, so that it can move through. When we resist, when we clench, when we hold, when we distract, we ignore, we numb out, we run away from, we keep it here. And again, we'll have to go through it later. So we may as well do it now. It has seemed that we have been in a bit of a divine pause. It almost seems too like an extended period of gestation. Like we have been carrying this baby 9 months more than we should be. If we're at the point where, and for some reason, the analogy of pregnancy is coming through today, But when we're first pregnant, the baby's tiny, it's not a big thing, especially that second trimester, everything's amazing. It's enjoyable. You have happy hormones. You're feeling really good. And then that third trimester comes and the baby's big and it can feel like a prison for the baby. And it can feel just so stretched and at capacity for the mom. Whatever we're going through, this birthing of the new life, we're in the extended pause of the moments before labor where you say, I am just done with this thing, get it out already. That's what this divine pause has felt like. We're very, very pregnant with the next phase, with the next stage of life, the new life that we are giving birth to. So allow those emotions to flow through, allow the sensations to move through. If you literally have to stop what you're doing and just go in the bathroom and hide for 2-3 minutes, it literally is almost enough. Depending on how long you've been holding on to things, you might need a full on hour session. Reach out if you do. I do offer free sessions. Point being, take the time, take the pause, be with those sensations, undivided attention so that they can move through. And remember that the divine pause is a little bit like a functional freeze, right? The state of the nervous system when we just can't tolerate anymore, the body shuts down. Sometimes that is what is called for. So be willing to honor whatever is being called for. Detach, observe, and in the detachment, in the observation, pulling back at that high level to say, okay, I see the external stimuli, I see the emotion, I see the way I have a tendency to respond. Be that detached observer so that you can hold yourself through whatever it is that you are birthing or experiencing. Seek the answers within. Every time you find yourself grabbing for the phone or grabbing for distraction or grabbing for a numbing mechanism, recognize you are searching for something and you will not find it out there. You will find it in here. Remember, the body is the temple, right? Source is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within. I could point to so many things that tell us the answers will come through your body, not from a screen or a glass of wine, right? Yes, we need friends. Yes, we need to express. Yes, we need support. But ultimately, sometimes, especially if you come to me, a session is me helping you go within so that you can find the guidance that is right for you, right? Attract, don't chase. Sorry, I don't know why Zoom only does that sometimes. I can never seem to make it do it on purpose. I just kind of take it as the divine thumbs up. Attract, don't chase means be still and know. That means be in that calm parasympathetic nervous system state so that you can receive the guidance and receive what it is that is trying to come to you. If you are in that activated nervous system state, you are masculine, resistant, blocking, and keeping all of the things that you are capable of attracting to you from coming to you, right? Be carefree. So instead of saying, I don't care from a numb state of being or an avoidant state of being, be carefree and say, it's good. Whatever comes is good. I trust the divine plan, right? If you're still feeling that frenetic energy, make sure you ground, drink water, rest, find stillness, and let the body heal so that you can come back to the be still so that you can know, right? If you're also still feeling frenetic and there's big fears, look at the thing you fear, move towards the thing you fear. The fear is your attraction point, and it will not only block the good things that you're trying to receive or draw into your life, but you'll also draw the fear in. And so there really is no two ways about it. Towards the fear, through the valley is the only way to get to the other side. Bask in those big energies as you do it. And remember, it's only going to last 90 seconds or maybe a couple stacked 90 seconds of suppressed and old emotions, but eventually this too shall pass. Nothing lasts forever. Right. And then after that, that's when we choose to focus on what we want to create. Yes, it is true. Focus on only the good things you want to create. But we can't do that at the detriment of the processing that needs to happen. We can't say, oh, this is uncomfortable, I'm not going to look at it, therefore I'm only going to look at the positive things, because that's the ignoring that keeps us stuck, that keeps us having to go back and revisit these things. So process first, face it, move through the fear, Notice the sensations in the body, be with the emotion until it dissipates on its own. And after it moves through, then you focus on what you want to create. Trust yourself, trust your body, trust the divine. All of the guidance you need is within you. And if you ever find yourself saying, I don't know what I want, I don't know what I should do, I don't know what the block is, challenge that, because that's a story and you actually do know. All right. So good to be back with you, my friends. I love you. I will see you on the next one. Have a wonderful and beautiful week. Namaste.